want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast, presented by FanDuel. Pistons played the Toronto Raptors today. Last game of the week starts a little three-game road trip for Detroit. We're going to get into our quarter notes, also go over an injury report that we got from JB Bickerstaff about Isaiah Stewart. We're going to get into that first before we get to the quarter notes, actually. And then we'll go over the box score and the team stats. And if you guys are watching live, you have any questions, comments, overall thoughts with today's game, definitely leave any thoughts you have about today's game in the live chat if you are watching live on YouTube, because to end this podcast, we'll do Q&A like we usually do. If you guys are brand new here, we have a dedicated segment just for fans like you that watch Detroit Pistons basketball games or just a Detroit Pistons fan. So if you have any thoughts, comments, leave them down below, and I will try to get to each and every one of you at the end of the podcast. But let's start with this Isaiah Stewart injury news first. I'm going to share a quote from Amari Sankofa, so shout out to him. Really good reporter if you guys don't follow him over at the Detroit Free Press. And it says, quote, JB said that there's no timetable for Stu, who's out with a left calf strain. It's something that he's been dealing with. It had been getting worse. He gutted it out last game, and I think you could see he was favoring it late. It's something we're going to take time with, end quote. So Isaiah Stewart obviously has been dealing with a calf strain, okay? I do have some thoughts on it, and I'll make it very quick because I want to get into the quarter notes. Calf strains are very tricky to deal with. Anytime you hear calf strain, I think a lot of people associate it with Achilles tendon tear, and you don't want that. I don't think Isaiah Stewart is, dealing with any type of Achilles tendon soreness. It's just a calf strain for now, but it can lead to that if you keep playing on it because the calf does get weaker. And we saw like Tyrese Halliburton deal with calf strains last year, Damian Lillard as well, and you don't want that to happen. But the reason why they're tricky is because they can last up to a couple of days to several months. Most recently, there was a Piston on the team right now, Bobby Klippman. He dealt with the calf strain, if you guys remember, for several months. He didn't really come back until the season last season, where it was basically over. It was like half over. JB already had his rotations, and he spent majority of his time with the Motor City Cruise. Still does this season. So calf strains can be very difficult. I mean, you could even go back to the Monty year with Bojan Bogdanovic. If you guys remember him, he had a calf strain. It kept him out for several months. Hopefully, Stu is not out for several months as we do have the playoffs fastly approaching. Hopefully, it's just a calf strain where he can get right. I believe the Pistons have 16 games left on the schedule. So hopefully Stu can rehab this calf strain and he's good to go for the playoffs. But I did want to start that off with the podcast. You didn't have any Isaiah Stewart tonight, but you did have Asar Thompson in this one. Good to see Asar Thompson back. He's obviously on a minute restriction, played 24 minutes today, so I don't know how long that minute restriction is going to last with Asar Thompson. But first game back, I believe, since the Spurs game where he did initially roll his ankle. So good to see Asar back. Sucks that Stu's out. But getting into the first quarter, start this game, Toronto's ball movement and dribble penetration in the paint gave them an early lead. And that's something that I thought they did a really good job throughout the game of just swinging the ball side to side, getting into the paint, getting second chance points. And their defense was very physical. They forced the Pistons taking a lot of difficult shots and they were clogging the paint. So that's something that they know that the Pistons like to do is live in the paint, and they limited it. So JB took a timeout. Score was 13-5, Toronto. Toronto took a timeout after the Pistons go on a 4-0 run of their own, and they cut the lead to 13-9. Something that I noticed, Kevin Huerter was the first player off the bench in consecutive halves for the Detroit Pistons. I know JB had said he's trying to get him more acclimated, get him more comfortable with the Detroit Pistons offense and just the system as a whole. Looks like he's leaning towards playing Kevin Huerter more, which I like to see. Obviously, if he can get back to form like he was in Sacramento or even Atlanta, that's a win for the Pistons. But baby steps. He did hit a pretty nice 3-pointer in this game, but overall didn't really make an impact too much. Cade had a great assist to Tobias, and then and one, back to back plays, and the Pistons were able to get out to a 14-13 lead. After that, the timeout initially with JB, the Pistons go on a 14-3 run. Duncan Robinson, we'll get into today. He had 2 early fouls in this first, so you didn't really see him for the rest of the first quarter. Cade hit a deep 2 to make it a 1-point game. It was 33-32 Toronto. Just a really physical game throughout with the Raptors. Coming into the second quarter, Sasser played backup point guard, and that's something that I want to talk about as well. Danish Jenkins got his first DNP, coach's decision by JB Bickerstaff. We know that Danish Jenkins got converted from his two-way, and he's been the backup point guard for the Detroit Pistons. We didn't see Sasser until the second quarter. Cade played all 12 minutes, so he was out there with the starters and the second unit. But, Sasser was playing backup point guard for the Pistons. Toronto was just beating them to rebounds. Yoko Pirtle, Scotty Barnes, a lot of their players were just out hustling the Pistons all night long. Karis LeVert, very early on, his scoring did help. He was perfect from the field. He had 9 points in the second quarter. Pistons turnovers were just letting Toronto push the pace in transition and get second chance opportunities. Jalen Duren started scoring in the post a little bit more in the second quarter. Toronto took a timeout after the Pistons sustained a 3-point lead, 54-51. And then Cade just started taking 1-versus-1 matchups with Toronto. They weren't really doubling him or putting more bodies on him until later in this game. And he was just taking full advantage, whether it was 1v1 with RJ Barrett or 1v1 with his former high school teammate, Scotty Barnes. And they were able to get a little bit of a lead, but Toronto had 18 second chance points between the first and the second quarter combined. And I believe they finished the game with 30 collectively as a team. Pistons were able to get to a 5-point lead after 2 quarters of play, 64-59. Okay. Now, this week, I would say they've come out of halftime better, right? This third quarter, I swear, was probably the worst third quarter I've seen the Pistons play all season. Like, really, really bad. Like, really bad. Toronto just completely started this third quarter hot. 17-6 run to start the quarter. JB had to take a timeout after Toronto got a 4-point lead. It was 76-72. Yoko Pirtle was just killing the Pistons on the glass. He was just getting Toronto second and third opportunities. And I felt like in this third, we settled for a lot of jumpers, mainly 3-pointers. Our ball movement wasn't the same as it was to, start the game. Body movement, everyone was staying stationary. And I feel like Toronto did a very good job, in my opinion, of getting into the Pistons' chest before they could get comfortable in their half-court sets. I felt like they did a good job all game of just being really physical with the Pistons in terms of just like a defensive game plan for them. And, our defensive effort was really bad. We weren't closing out on 3-point shooters. We kind of just looked at the ball as it was coming down for a defensive rebound or multiple possessions where Toronto just out hustled us for more rebounds. I believe they had 20 offensive rebounds as a team, which is just unacceptable in my personal opinion. But the Pistons really couldn't do anything with Ingram either. Ingram was just fantastic tonight for the Raptors. So they had an 89-77 lead after a timeout. And just the quarter as a whole, they outscored the Pistons 36-17, and the Raptors ended the third with a 93-81 lead. Going into the fourth quarter, JB had to take a timeout after the Raptors scored 5 more points, so it was 98-84. Toronto took a timeout after the Pistons cut this lead down to 10, so the Pistons weren't really out of it. They were fighting. Javonte Green got fouled on a 3-point shot by Yoko Pirtle, made all 3 3-pointers. Cade took Scotty Barnes 1v1, got it down to 5. Pistons going a 7-0 run. Raptors score a little bit more. Cade takes the ball, goes all the way in transition, slams it, gets the game within 5. And Toronto just could not miss a shot, and we couldn't make stops. So the fourth quarter heroics, getting this game down to 5. We just couldn't do it, couldn't hit shots, and Toronto won this game 119 to 108. Now the season series with the Pistons is a 1-1 tie. Obviously, we beat them right before the All-Star break. We will see them one more time this month in Detroit, so it should be a very good game. And kind of leading up to that game, the Pistons had won 7 straight games against the Toronto Raptors, which I remember when they had our number years ago when we were going through the rebuild, and like under Dwayne Casey, we won a couple, but up to that rebuild point, like they were just, they had our number. But 7 straight wins against the Raptors is I think pretty significant. But tonight they just had our number. It'll be interesting to see how they game plan for the Raptors in Detroit in a couple of weeks. And as we kind of look at the FanDuel lines for this game, the Pistons were actually a favored team in this one. It was at 4.5 at night, and then it kind of moved up to 3.5. So they thought that the Pistons were going to win this game. I thought they were going to win this game after 2 quarters of play, but I really feel like that third quarter was what really decided that game. It was just an uphill battle. The Pistons were trying to climb, and Toronto just couldn't miss a shot between R.J. Barrett and Brandon Ingram, who was just excellent tonight. Pistons just really couldn't do anything with Toronto in this one. We're going to get to the box score, and then we'll open up the show to any comments and questions if you guys have any. So we kind of look at the box score, and I know we're probably going to talk about Duncan Robinson because a lot of people, as soon as I posted my post-game final score graphic on Instagram, a lot of people were pointing to Duncan for this loss tonight. But we'll get into it. So Tobias Harris in 33 minutes had 21 points. He was 9 out of 12 from the field. He was perfect from 3, where he didn't miss a three-pointer. He had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover. He was a -2 in this one. I really felt like his scoring was needed. Would have liked to see a little bit more defensively out of him. Rebounding, he's actually been a pretty good rebounder since he's come back to Detroit. I just felt like he was out of position a lot of the times to grab rebounds, but defensively, would have liked to see a little bit more out of him personally. Duncan Robinson, 1 point. He was 0 for 2 from the field. Those 2 attempts came from 3. He had 1 free throw that he made. He had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover. He was a +2 in the plus-minus in this one. Got in the foul trouble, too. He had 2 early fouls, and then just ticky-tack fouls that Mark Davis called on him that he wasn't really too in love with. But you got to credit Toronto. They really just shut off his space in terms of him shooting the ball. He did have a couple assists to Durham, but overall, just not a really good game out of him. And it's funny because we were up here talking like this week, he actually has had better games shooting the basketball, but you're going to need more than 1 point out of your starting 2 guard if you expect to win games. Jalen Duren, the box score looks good. 37 minutes, 20 points, 8 out of 11 from the field, 4 to 7 from the free throw line, 11 rebounds, 1 turnover, -7. Box scores don't always tell the whole story. I thought defensively, this was a very bad game from Jalen Duren. There were multiple possessions where he was just getting out-rebounded by Yoko Poeltl, multiple possessions where he just wasn't trying. Like the box score looks good. He had a double-double, but like it doesn't tell the whole story. If you watch the game tonight, defensively, Jalen Duren really didn't bring it. I think that's why JB Bickerstaff leaned on Paul Reed a little bit more. He played 11 minutes. We'll get into his box score in a little bit, but going to need better effort out of Jalen Duren defensively, throughout this game if you want to win it. And then as we get closer to the playoffs, we can't have defensive efforts like that if we expect to get out of the first round and have a deep playoff run. But said my piece with it. Cade Cunningham in 37 minutes. He scored 33 points. He was 50% from the field, where he made 12 field goals out of 24 attempts. He was 2 out of 8 from 3, 7 out of 8 from the free throw line. He had 3 rebounds, 9 assists, 4 turnovers, 2 steals. He was a -13 in the plus-minus tonight for the Pistons. Sar Thompson had 24 minutes in this one, scored 4 points. He was 2 out of 8 from the field, 0 for 2 from the free throw line, had 1 rebound, 3 assists, 1 turnover, 1 steal, 1 block. He was a -9. Paul Reed off the bench had 4 points in 11 minutes. He was 2 out of 4 from the field, 6 rebounds, 2 turnovers. He was a -4. Ron Holland in 13 minutes scored 2 points. He was 1 out of 4 from the field, had 2 rebounds, 1 assist. He was a -10 off the bench, and he was the worst player on the bench in the plus minus. Javonte Green in 15 minutes had 8 points. He was 2 out of 3 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. Perfect from the free throw line where he made all 3 of those in the fourth quarter. He had 3 rebounds, 1 assist, -4 in the plus minus. Karis LeVert in 20 minutes had 9 points. He was 3 out of 8 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 steal, 1 block. He was a -8. Kevin Huerter in 14 minutes, had 3 points, and that 3 points was a 3-pointer in the first half. He had 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 turnover, and 1 steal. Was a -2. And Marcus Sasser in 12 minutes scored 3 points. It was 1 out of 6 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 1 turnover, and he was a +2. Him and Duncan Robinson were the only players that had a plus in the plus minus. And Tolu Smith and Danish Jenkins, DMP coaches' decisions. That's Danis's first DMP coach's decision. Kind of get into the team stats, and then we'll kind of open up the show to comments and questions. To see a couple of you guys leaving some comments. I've missed you guys a ton. Can't wait to get into the Q&A. Getting into the team stats. So if you look, the Raptors did have more possessions. They had 91 possessions to the Pistons' 85 field goal attempts. They both shot 48% from the field. Pistons actually shot a better percentage from 3, believe it or not. They were 10 out of 26, shooting 38% from 3. The Raptors were 8 for 28, 29%. But I feel like all 8 of those 3-point attempts just came at just timely possessions for them. If we look at the free throws, the Pistons shot 67%. They were 16 out of 24. The Raptors were 77%, and they made 23 out of 30. They out-rebounded the Pistons 48-39. And the offensive glass really tells a story for the Raptors. 20 offensive rebounds for them. They had 28 defensive rebounds. But, the Pistons had offensive rebounds as well, but Raptors just owned them on the glass tonight. They out-assisted them by 2, 25-23. Got more steals, 9-6. Both teams had 5 blocks. Both teams had 13 turnovers. And the fast break points, the Pistons kind of had more, 17-10, but there wasn't too many fast break opportunities throughout the game. Points in the paint, they beat them as well, 56-50. And the Pistons followed them 26 times to the Raptors 20. But just overall, the Raptors deserved to win this game, in my opinion. I felt like they just brought it, the energy from the start, I felt was more physical, more aggressive. And I don't really know if the Pistons were fully ready to get up for the Raptors. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next game with them. But I do want to get into the Q&A with you guys. C. Marquez says, it's better to go in the playoffs healthy than a 1 seed. In case anyone is worried about that, get well soon, Beef Stew. Yeah, I mean, you would love Isaiah Stewart healthy. It would really suck if back-to-back playoffs, Isaiah Stewart is not available for the playoffs. I'm going to knock on wood because I need Isaiah Stewart healthy for the playoffs. He's so crucial for rim protection, so crucial for setting screens with the second unit, can't hit the occasional 3. Isaiah Stewart is very important for this team, but the calf strain was news to me. I didn't know he was dealing with that. I kind of questioned why you would play him against a tanking Grizzlies team anyways. Why play him if he's injured? That doesn't make sense to me. If Stu wanted to play of his free will, I guess, but calf strains are so tricky. You really hope that he's not out for a long period of time. Detroit sports fan since 2002. Thoughts on Killian Hayes getting a 2-year deal with the Kings? Not surprised. Kings are in tank mode. And Killian is a perfect player, in my opinion, to have as a point guard where you're not too worried about him going crazy to win you too many games. Could defend, pass, still can't finish with his right hand. But I mean, happy for him. He's getting a 2-year deal. He's been in the G League. But the Kings are going through a rebuild right now, and I think a lot of people know like where Killian is at in his career. Wishing him well. I'm just kind of happy that as Pistons fans we don't have to watch that anymore. But wishing him well, man. He was a soldier for us for sure. Ryan, hi Anthony, hi Ryan. Hope you're doing well, man. By the way, this is not a joke. The guy plays for the Kings. I saw him last night when the Kings played the Clippers. Yeah, I mean, he did get a couple of 10 days. Happy for him. I really am. I really am. I never want to like speak ill on a player. But I could just tell like he never really worked on his game when he was here in Detroit. Like it was apparent. Like there's no way you can't develop, another hand like finishing with your right or left. And you're here for multiple years. Even Troy Weaver asked him to like work on his game. I still remember, and I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole a little bit. We had Corey Woods on, who, if you guys remember Corey, he was actually a credentialed Detroit Pistons reporter. And I had Corey on when they let Killian go. And apparently Troy Weaver told the media room that he asked Killian to work on his game and develop his game. And when Troy didn't see progress or progression, he just cut him and said, like, I gave this guy multiple opportunities, multiple chances, and he didn't take it seriously. So that's why the Pistons cut him. But it's pretty wild, man. But, the Kings are in a different situation, obviously. Kind of wild to think about where they had that one good year with Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox under Mike Brown to make the playoffs. And they looked really good, and then it just went downhill. They decided to fire Mike Brown. They decided, you know what, we're just going to have Doug Christie be our coach, and then we're going to sign all these vets like Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, trade for Zach LaVine, and it just hasn't gotten them anywhere. So I could see them selling off on, Sabonis. I can see them selling off on LaVine. Who knows what happens with DeMar? I don't know if he's still under contract for next year. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I don't have his contract pulled up in front of me, but it'll be interesting to see what does happen with the Kings. Hopefully they get some lottery luck and they kind of rebuild and have a new core to build around. Ryan, do you think Sasser provided spacing we miss more than Asar's defense? I think the starting lineup this past week with Cade, Sasser, Duncan, Tobias, and Duran, you obviously saw more floor spacing. You did. But I think what Asar does defensively and what he can do playmaking wise, I think they're two different types of lineups, but I think he did provide some spacing. I just don't know if it's an everyday lineup. It was good to see him off the bench. I'd still like to see him get a good 12 to 15 minutes a night to develop because I still think he needs more opportunities and more chances to show like what he can provide. I think it's really hard to play maybe once every month like he was. But I do think he did provide spacing. But I do think we did miss Asar's defense. The defense is completely fallen off a cliff since All-Star break. I think we were like second in defense, and we've fallen to like 12th since the All-Star break. So it kind of seems that but the team in general has kind of fallen off a cliff defensively. But we have played some pretty good teams, and Asar wasn't in the lineup when our defense did fall off. So it'll be interesting to see when that minute restriction does get lifted for him and if our defense can pick back up to being a top 5 defense again. So Joy has a comment about Trajan, and it says, I just hate Trajan for absolutely doing nothing to improve the team. I hope we make it out of the first round. Doesn't look good. That way they have been playing since the break. So I've been seeing a lot of comments about this, especially after the deadline. And I see both sides of the fence for the lack their moves for the Pistons, right? I think during the deadline, we heard a lot that they were shopping Jaden Ivey. And then as more news kind of came out, like there were teams in the Western Conference that had interest in Jaden Ivey. We don't know which teams that were interested and what even the trade packages were. Him getting dealt in a 3-team trade to Chicago, I would like to assume that the Pistons took the best deal that they possibly could get because we really don't know what the other deals were. I'd like to assume that. You get Kevin Herter, you get a pick swap with Minnesota, and it's contingent on Minnesota like winning. You don't want them to keep losing because then they get their pick back and then we get our pick back, right? But I'm frustrated too. I wouldn't say I hate Trajan. I'm just frustrated because I felt like it was a good opportunity to get some help. And I'm not saying like go trade for like Michael Porter Jr., which didn't even sound like the Nets wanted to trade him anyways. From all the reports you heard, and I know some people that cover the team in Brooklyn and talk to them. Sounds like they weren't even like listening to calls for him. But I felt like if we're going to trade with the Bulls, like Kobe White to me would make a whole lot of sense. He's in Charlotte. Charlotte didn't really have to give up a whole lot. Like having a guy like a Kobe White makes sense. I would have liked to see more scoring off the bench, more 3-point shooting. Obviously, Kevin Herter is like a career 37% 3-point shooter, but he struggled a lot recently as a 3-point shooter. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's just a system thing of where he's played in Chicago. But it's definitely frustrating. I'm with you. I do think they can make it out of the first round. Because you kind of look at the play-in teams. We've beaten a lot of those teams at the bottom. We've beaten Charlotte. We've beaten Atlanta. I think you can handle a lot of teams at the bottom. I think the second round gets a little bit more interesting to see who you match up in the second round with. But I've talked about this on last podcast. Like I've seen a lot of different opinions in terms of expectations, right? I think a lot of you guys before the season had pretty mild expectations for the Pistons. You wanted them to finish in the top 4, wanted them to make the playoffs, and they're going to finish in the top 4 this year. They've already mathematically made the playoffs. It's just a situation where now you guys have real expectations because they've been the number 1 seed all season long almost. I think since like November, October? I think November, if I remember correctly. They've been the number 1 seed. They've held it down this season. And I think a lot of the expectations I see is like that we don't make the Eastern Conference Finals, the season is a failure. And I don't have those same opinions personally. My expectations to stay the same. I just want to see them win a playoff series. I want to see them, win a home playoff game because we haven't done that in a long time since the Boston Celtics when they had like Ray Allen and Rajon Rondo. It's been a minute since the Pistons have won a home playoff game. I want to see that happen before I kind of get into like Eastern Conference Finals talk and championship talk. I think this team is extremely talented. I think I like the core that we have. The mix of veterans I happen to like. I do think we do have to upgrade the power forward position after Tobias Harris' contract is expired. You got to take care of Jalen Duren. I don't know what kind of contract you're going to give him. You have extension eligible players like Stewart and Asar on your books that you can, do as well. I think there's a lot of questions that I don't have answers to yet with this team, but in terms of just playoffs, I think they can make it out of the first round, but I just don't have the same expectations as you guys right now. And I'm never going to tell a fan how to fan. If you feel they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a failure. Hey, that's in your right as a fan to have those opinions. I just want to see them get out of the first round and win a playoff game. Like, to me, that'll be a successful season. You might have a different opinion, but Joy, I can understand why you're frustrated with Trajan not doing anything. I felt like it was a good opportunity to get better, and they really haven't been playing the same, since the All-Star break. I don't know what's going on there. I do think the level of competition has gotten better. Like San Antonio, you played twice. Like San Antonio is a really good basketball team. You played OKC, but they were extremely injured. You get to see them, this month again. Hopefully they're healthy so you can kind of see like where you're at in terms of like the NBA landscape of the top tier teams in the NBA. But we're going to preview the schedule to end the podcast next week. You have a pretty late week, but it definitely is very frustrating. Kind of New York fan in here saying, seems like Isaiah Stewart is allergic to the playoffs. I wouldn't say that. It's just bad timing, personally. Like last year, he had that knee inflammation really bad. And he had it even before the series started against the Knicks. Like he sat out, I believe, like the last 7 or 8 games because his knee was just like really bothering him, and he couldn't really give it a go. He tried to play game one and then had to sit out the remainder of the games. And right now he's dealing with a calf strain, which hopefully he's not out for the playoffs. I would hate to see that for him, missing, playoffs back-to-back years, but hopefully he can get that calf strain, handled. We're March 15th, and, the playoffs start a month from now. So hopefully he's good to go. But kind of previewing next week's game. So you have Washington twice on the road. I can't say I've seen this. It's kind of like a baseball series in a sense where you have Washington twice on the road. It's not a back-to-back. It's I believe Tuesday, Thursday, if I remember correctly. So you see them. They've actually given the Pistons quite some trouble this year. I don't know what it is with Washington this year. They just really can score the basketball against the Detroit Pistons. Last game they beat us single-handedly. Probably had their best offensive game of the season. I know Trae Young is back for them. Don't know if he's going to be playing. We'll still have Alex Sarr. Have to handle business. I mean, they're a bottom Eastern Conference team, and you get to see them twice this week. You should beat them on paper, but you never know what team's going to show up on a night-to-night basis with this team. We haven't really got consistency on both ends of the floor for a full 48. So you see Washington twice, and I believe you have a back-to-back. So Thursday you're in Washington. Friday, Golden State comes to town. So you get to see Golden State on Friday at home. Last time we played them, we did beat them. I don't know if Steph Curry is still out. If he's not playing, that should be a game that you should win at home without Steph if he's still out. But you got 3 games next week, Washington twice, and then Golden State. So only 3 games this week. They'll be able to get a little bit of rest and kind of regroup for this week. They finished the week 3-1. Obviously, you would have loved to see them finish 4-0, but hopefully we have a 3-0 week. We're doing our post-game podcast throughout the week, and we'll see you guys 3 times next week for our post-game podcast. And next week, hopefully, because I keep telling you guys, I've been doing stuff behind the scenes with this company, and it keeps getting delayed. And I feel bad because I keep trying to tease it on this YouTube channel and this podcast, and it's not happening. So the 19th, when we play the Wizards, or I think the Warriors, I don't even know what game that is. I think it's the Warriors game. The 19th, we're going to be doing something on the podcast. I'll get to share with you guys the company I've been talking with that wants to do work with us on this podcast, which I'm really excited about doing that. Hopefully it doesn't get backdated even more, but did want to kind of give you guys an update with this company. Can't say who it is until we actually get to try their product live on the podcast. Really excited about that, but hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you guys 3 times next week. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.